All right, hello. So this is really when we're going to get into modeling, okay? And all the ins and outs of modeling. So number one, click select mode so you don't accidentally move your cool cylinder. And we are going to start our stack, right? We have a cylinder that's perfect. It should be the same size that it needs to be with about 5 height segments, 8 sides, and we've rotated um, to what we need. The modifier we're going to add is edit poly. We're just going to go edit poly crazy. And editable poly is the correct one to use. There are advantages to using what's known as the edit mesh. You will probably be using edit poly most often though. In fact, edit mesh was the first thing that 3D Max had, and the edit poly tool is just much better. It's much more in depth. So many tools. The edit mesh is really for it's a historic fun thing that they don't want to get rid of. But what we're going to do first is orbit using your Alt middle mouse button, and what we need to be aware of is the selection mode here. We can select verts, edges, borders or holes, polygons, or elements themselves. And those also correspond to your number keys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead. You can hit 5 or select the element mode, and notice that when you left click this, that is the element. It's the entire thing. If you select a polygon, note you can left click and select individual polygons. We'll call these quads because our polygons will eventually have all 4 sides. Holes, there aren't any holes yet. We don't have any holes yet. Edges, you can select an edge. There's an edge, there's an edge, there's an edge. And vertices or vertex, you can select various verts. Okay, yay. We are going to select polygons because I want you to select the top and hit the delete key to delete it. And now you'll note you can actually select border and select that, right? That is a border because there's a hole in this object. So that's what a border is. But I want to go back to polygon mode, go to the bottom, select the bottom, and hit delete. Okay, now we have a cylinder with 2 holes in it, right? Okay. And before you're done, what I want you to notice is that right now my edit poly modifier on this stack has a square enabled. I don't want to have this square going up the stack, so just left click it and make sure none of these modes are selected. That square little thing disappears up here, and I'm actually going to add another modifier because I like my first edit poly to just get rid of those what are they called? The caps, right? And so now I want to add a second edit poly modifier. This way, if I ever make a mistake in this edit poly modifier, I can actually, like, okay, let me show you. What's a mistake I can make? I could accidentally move these verts over here and not realize it, right? And I could keep going up the stack and, like, doing something else, blah, blah, blah. Maybe... okay, maybe I want to delete this. But lo and behold, there will come a time when I realize, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have moved those verts. What did I do? I screwed it up. If I did that only on one of these, like this one, whoops, I could turn this on and off, the one that I messed up on. I could actually just toggle it off forever, or I could select it and delete it. Okay, but I actually want to delete this one too. Okay, so that's why I constantly create new edit poly modifiers, and we're going to create a second one. There we go. And in this one, this is where I want to actually start setting up my edges. So let's go ahead and click edge, and double click an edge will select the entire loop all the way around. Okay, so double clicking this edge, select that loop. Go to front mode. What I want to do is double click these edge loops, and I can use my move tool by tapping W and just moving them so that they align with like great parts. So I want his pants to be one, that to be another. Okay, that's fine right there. Maybe where his mouth is where I want that one. Okay? But also note, I'm going to hit Alt-W. I probably should have been, oops, aligning them. Zoom in here. So I made this my left by tapping L, and this my front by tapping F. And I can hover my cursor over the middle where these viewports intersect and drag this down so that I'm actually looking at almost full screen of just the left and the right. Okay, these kind of line up, but what is the problem? The problem is, you'll note, it doesn't really make sense here. Okay, so this is where we're going to actually start rotating. Oh, good, it's only been 6 minutes. This is where you'll now hit the E key in your left viewport. And here I'm going to rotate like that. Oh, it rotates 22.5. What we're going to do is turn off snap right now. Just left click the angle snap. And now it's not going to snap anything, which is fine. I'm going to rotate it in this mode. Tap W, move it here so that it mimics the rough angle of this hat. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, you're going to double click these edges, and that's going to select everything. And again, we're not going to drag in here. We're not going to drag here. That's going to screw up your verts. You're not going to rotate here. You're going to rotate only around this circle. Again, and also not this gray circle out here, because that rotates in weird angles as well. Control Z. You are going to rotate along this circle right here. Tap W to move it. Rotate there. Tap W to move it. That's fine. Double click his neck. Tap E. Rotate it slightly. Tap W to move it. So notice I'm going back and forth. Back and forth. Constantly moving and rotating. Moving and rotating. Double clicking. Moving. Rotating. Double clicking. Moving. Rotating. Double clicking. Now this edge, by the way, we delete, whoops, don't do that, I moved that single edge by accident. What I want to do is make sure all of my verts are kind of aligned. I want to keep my verts aligned until the very last possible moment. Okay, here we go. Now what you'll notice is I actually should probably use another set of loops here, but I'm not going to do that yet because I want to make sure. There's another thing I have to do. I have to scale these, right? So I rotated them all and moved them in my left viewport. Well, now I'm going to go to my front viewport, tap R, and scale it. And by the way, keep tapping R. What I want you to notice is there's a couple ways you could scale. There's actually a few ways you can scale. If you see it moving here, you could select and squash. This is, hold on. If you hover your left mouse, hold your left mouse button down over your scale tool at the top here, you could do this one, which is select in uniform scale. The second one is select in non-uniform scale. And the third is really one that I haven't used before, but we could use it in animation, which is selecting and squashing. Don't use that one that like that pretends like it's, you know, a malleable object, which can be helpful sometimes, but not for what we're doing. So I'm going to use uniform scale. But what I want to do is scale it just with this X. Just hover it here. I only want to scale it in this view, not here, because it might be scaled differently in this view. The other thing I want you to note is when I scale this, I don't want this gizmo to be in my XY plane, because I actually have rotated it. I actually want to scale these locally to their own rotation. So with scale selected, this drop-down list that used to say view or does say view, I want that to say local. What that does is it changes the gizmo here to be perfectly aligned to its own X. Oh, you know what it's doing? Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Oh, is that gonna work? It will. It will. I know. I'm not telling you why I'm worried. I'm just slightly worried. Okay. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to rotate this slightly. Tap R and scale it slightly. I'm going to keep this as it is. This bucket is actually going to grow from his head, so I'm going to pretend this is his head. Oh no, this is not good. So remember in the beginning when I rotated this guy? It just screwed up my scale a little bit. That's okay. That's okay. It's not exactly what I wanted to do. So I'm gonna scale it in. You know what? I'm an idiot. I'm gonna go Control Z. What I want to do is actually set it to screen. No, that's also not what I want to do. You know what? We'll have to do it. We'll have to do it to the viewport for right now. I know. Like, why? Because. I'll tell you later. So I'm going to scale it. Notice when I scale it for the view, it does change that rotation a little bit, but that's okay. I'll just fix that by tapping E and changing that a little bit. I'll fix that. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. It's slightly off here. Double click this. Okay. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is uncheck that. And so now if I were to turn that off, you'd see what happened here, right? That's what we did with this second edit poly modifier. How much time do we have? 12 minutes? All right. So that's, and the next step, we will, oh, I have one last thing to do. I need to make its feet here. Oops, not that. I need to actually go into edge mode, select this edge, scale this, then hit E so I can rotate it back, W so I can move it a little bit, scale it, rotate it. I need to scale that a little bit more, rotate it, move it. There we go. And this is the problem, like right here. So we'll fix that in the next video, and because I'll show you a whole other amazing tool. Uncheck that. All right, see you next time.